All right, hey everybody, welcome to Feature Friday. So we're going to do a three-part series on inspection forms. First part's going to be on just basically how to create one. Second part is going to be all the different ways that you could probably use it. And then a third part is going to be some of the more advanced features and functions that are included within. So anyway, let's get started with part one. Okay, so before we get started, the one thing I want to point out is that we're going to focus on assets, using these inspection forms to inspect assets, but you could just as easily do the same thing with locations. All right, so let's get started. We're going to log in the application suite here. It's going to log into the user that has the access that I need. And once this gets to the application suite navigator, then we're going to jump on over into manage. So as you know, manage is what Maximo has become under the application suite umbrella. So we're just going to click our way into manage, and we're going to head on over to the planning module of manage. And of course, planning you know very well, and we'll find ourselves scrolling down into the manage inspection forms. So here we are. Here's planning. Roll down towards the bottom here, and we see manage inspection forms. And again, make sure that the user that you're using has access to this particular application. Okay, each inspection form is represented with a tile here, and you can see that they have statuses. You'll see that they have revisions, and certainly the eye icon here is for previewing the form. You can't do anything in the form, but at least you can see it instead of having to open it up for editing. When you get a big library of forms, the search function in the upper left-hand corner is really handy, and you can search by any term that you see in the tiles or in the forms themselves. And far right-hand side is the icon to actually create the form, and that's where we're going to start. Okay, so our first step would be to give the inspection form a name. I'm going to call this pump inspection. Okay. Then I'm going to move over to the right-hand side and select a form type. This really doesn't have any functionality at this point, but it is a way of categorizing your form. So I'm going to call it this as an inspection. And one thing you might want to note is down at the bottom is the save button. You're not able to save until you actually create that very first question. And so I'm going to go ahead over here on the right-hand side, and I'm going to click the Add Question button. And I'm going to hover here for just a moment and talk about these response fields. Okay, so the list of questions, IBM keeps adding to them as the different versions of this come out. But at the moment you can see that pretty straightforward list of the types of questions that you're able to ask. The first of all, of course, is meter readings. So if you're inspecting an asset or a location that has a meter or meters associated with it back in manage, you can certainly have a question that says enter a meter reading here on the inspection form as well. Your date and entries, if you wish a timestamp of some kind as a question on the form, you can certainly do those as well. Media, you're able to upload files, so if you take a picture from a mobile device while you're inspecting, that file can then show up as an attachment on the inspection form. Signatures is a more advanced functionality where you can actually capture wet signatures as attachments from inspection forms as well. If you want folks to enter a single number of some kind, you certainly can do that. Perhaps they are indicating a facility condition or something like that. Multiple choices, you can have a list presented to them, very much like a domain, where they can choose multiples, or you can have a single choice, 1, 2, or 3. You can only choose one of those values. Let's say you select 2, something like that. And then the very last one, of course, is a text response. This is good for comments, a log type entry, if you will, to indicate a condition that's beyond something that you would just select on the screen from a list. Okay, so for our purposes here today, I'm going to build an inspection form that has 4 questions on it. I'm going to certainly do a meter reading. I'm going to do a picture or a file upload. I'm going to do a single selectable list, and then I'm going to do a text response as well. All right, so my very first question is going to be a meter reading question. So I roll back up to the top, choose meter readings, and now I can see where I can enter in that details. So my question is going to be record a meter reading. Okay. The description is going to be record the current meter value. And you're able to use the question text and the description text as you wish. So first of all, for finding the meter is need to locate a meter name that is in the system. And so I'm going to start out and I'm going to just type in run. And it searches the system and it finds everything that starts with run. And you can see it found the familiar run hours meter. I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to leave required as no and visible as yes, and then I'm going to click done. Okay. And you're able to see that the question has been entered into the form. You'll notice over here on the right hand side for this question, you're able to delete it if you'd like. You can duplicate it if you have repetitive, similar types of questions, and certainly you can go back and edit it as well. Okay. Let's go ahead and add the rest of our questions. So I'm going to click Add Question, and the next one is going to be File Upload, and my question is simply going to be take a picture, spell it right, take a picture and add the file here. Okay. All right. Then you can choose where on the server the actual attachment goes, depending on how your doc links are set up. But I'm just going to choose attachments here, and for this particular one, I'm going to choose done. There's my second question. All right, let's do our single choice. Add yet another question, and single choice down here at the bottom. So again, I want to give it, what is the condition of the equipment. Okay. Description, simply down here providing instruction is select a value. Okay. All right, so option number one, I'm going to say that is going to be good. And we're going to choose the thumbs up icon for good. And we're going to choose green for good and not require any action. And then we're going to use bad, and the icon for that is thumbs down, and the color for that is going to be red. Quick note here on require action. When we get into the third part of this video is where we're going to talk about automations and scripts and such. So we'll just leave those to no at this point. This question is done. You can see over on the right hand side you do get an example of what your choices are going to look like on the actual inspection form, and so that's kind of a nice visual there. Again, we're going to choose done. We're done with our third question. Okay, time for our last question, and this is going to be a text response, so I'm just going to choose that down here in the bottom, and I'm going to give a bit of a description here. Text response. Okay. And for the description is, what else do we need to know? Okay. And we're just going to leave required and visible the same. And we're going to click done. That's a simple question. And move on from there. Now that we have some questions on our form, we can go ahead and click save. And you can see that the form has been updated. And I'm going to go ahead and make the form from draft. I'm going to make it to an active form. Okay. And we're good to go. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to switch back over to my form library. And you can see that we now have the pump inspection form that is ready for us to start using. As an optional step, let's go back to manage. And let's actually associate this form with a particular asset. So I've already set it up so that it's jumped me to this particular asset, this 121 that I'm interested in. and I'm going to go ahead and choose that particular asset, and I'm going to use an action way down here on the bottom that says Associate Inspection Form. Go ahead and click on that. I will search for my inspection form, and there it is, 1024. That was the active form that I just built, and I click OK, and we're done. What this does is it helps people select the right forms for the right assets, especially if they're doing unscheduled inspections. Okay, then I'm going to end this part by going back to Planning and going back to Manage Inspection Forms. Take us back to where we began and get ready for part 2 where we're actually going to use this form.